All right, it's 4 o'clock, and welcome, guys, to the Intro to Python and Game Development. It seems like that we have a pretty big class and pretty interactive, pretty lively people. So I think it's going to be a fun 8 course. All right, let me get the screen share ready. All right. Before we get started, I'd like to do a little introduction of myself. So my name's Ethan, and I've been coding for a little more than 6 years now, and I've written in multiple languages from Pascal, Scratch, Python, Java, JavaScript, C, C Sharp, and a lot of uh, like web development languages like HTML or CSS, and um, that's about me. And I'd like to introduce you guys to our TA for this class, which would be Ted. And Ted, if you want to give a brief introduction of yourself.
Thank you, Ethan. My name is Ted. I have also been coding for a handful of years now. I started with Scratch and moved to some languages like Python and Java and some like web languages as well.
All right. We do have another, since this is a pretty big class, so we will be having another TA. He was unable to attend this first part, so we'll probably see him in the second part or next class. All right, before getting everything started, I'd like to answer a few questions maybe you guys have. First, what is Python and what is programming to be exact? So programming is a way to instruct the computers to perform like certain tasks, maybe copy a file or maybe create a text document. And Python is a powerful interpreted language used to communicate with these computers. And you could think of it as maybe Mandarin, Chinese, English, Spanish, so it's a way of communicating between you and the computer. And Python, the reason why we study Python is it's both simple to read and write compared to many other languages. So you can express the same ideas with much fewer lines of code. And so that would increase both the productivity and the readability of the code. And since Python comes with a lot of libraries, which are prepackaged functions, I guess, uh, this also speeds up your code writing. All right. Another question commonly asked is Python useful? So Python is currently a trending language and it's used in multiple fields, but the most common ones are web development, machine learning, uh, data analysis, web scraping, computer vision, and what we'll be covering in this course, game development. So
Hello, sorry I'm late.
it's fine. Just join us. We just got started anyways. All right. Continue on. What can be learned from this course? You may ask. So we'll be mainly focusing on two parts of Python. One is the basics and fundamentals. So starting any project, you need to learn that first. And later on, we're gonna move into game development, and we will be mainly focusing on two uh, packages, and one will be arcade and the other one will be Pygame. And Pygame is sort of a more complicated arcade, so that's why we'll be focusing on arcade more than Pygame, and we're gonna study Pygame afterward. And in the basics, and we'll be going over the most common data types, different loops, different conditions, functions, classes, and also methods of user input. All right, before I move on to the next slide, does anybody have any other questions they would like to ask? Feel free to either put it in the chat or raise your hand and speak out loud.
Do we have to use Visual Studio Code or something else?
It's fine if you use VS Code or VS Studio Code. I will be using VS Code, but if you didn't install any of those or you don't want to install Python environment, you're more than welcome to use online editor like the Replit I sent out yesterday or today. Sophie, I guess, No, you don't have to install it. You can use later on we'll be covering the how to go over and setting up Replit, which is an online editor that features many functions. All right, that's good. So you don't have to go over it again. So is there any other questions regarding to maybe what Python does or anything like the general questions? Anthony, again, as I mentioned, we'll be going over Python and Replit. Okay, if there isn't any questions, I'm going to be moving on to, I guess, some demonstrations of the projects we're going to be looking at or studying at, which will be we'll be mainly focusing on classic games, so Change Lanes, Hungry Fish, Flappy Bird, and I have them written out, and I could do it. Let's see. Okay. Can you see the code? Just give me a heads up.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. This will be the change lanes that we're going to be writing. So there are I guess it's a brief demonstration, and there will be
How does that game work?
So that's going to be what we're going to be studying for the next 8 classes, and that will be like a final result of what you're going to be getting out of it. Another really classic game is the Flappy Bird. And we'll be introducing all of those. And the last one we'll be focusing on will be the Hungry Fish. So it doesn't exactly follow the actual game, but you get the idea of it. And there will be these like ending screens. Okay. Now I guess moving on. Yeah, since Python, Anthony, I guess answering to yours, since it's really Python can be used for a lot of things. Super Mario Bros. You obviously can do it on your own. I don't have it prepped in this class, but you could if you want to and code it yourself. Okay. I guess moving on to class format. I hope this class will be a fun learning experience. So more of like instructors and students. I hope we can become more of like friends who can just talk about coding or anything else you want to talk about. Cameras, I encourage them to be on, so that will increase engagement and sort of let me know how fast or how slow I should pace the class. There will be breaks and built in at around the 1 hour mark, and you're welcome to take any breaks during the practice problems if you finish it early. Parents, if you guys are listening, it's fine if you help your kids debug the code, but please don't write everything for them, since hands-on is a really important experience for coding. Again, I hope this will be a safe place to ask any questions. So we're all here to learn, not to judge. If you have any questions, you're free to put it in the chat or raise your hand, or you can email us at the email address listed on there. I'll be sending them out after class, so there's no need to write it out. There will also be around 10 to 20 minute Q&A session at the end of each class. So if you want to stay a little late, and you can feel free to ask. Although there's no need to take notes, but please keep a piece of paper nearby or notebook, because that's especially useful to jot down maybe reminders or maybe some thoughts, and or when you're writing more complex or complicated programs, you can write down the logic structure for the code. So post-it notes would also work. It's just sort of a place for you to put on ideas. Okay. Kyle, we're going to be going over we're going to go over a few common data types in this class, and as well as write a first line of code. All right. I guess you can now take maybe a 5-minute short break, And if you don't have Replica setup or you don't have any questions about setting it up, feel free to ask it right now, and I'll be going over it if anyone needs it. Bowen,
Like, I don't have a Replica, so I don't like, how do you set it up? I'm not sure how to set it, like, setting in the Replica thing.
It's a release. It says, let me send the website to you.
Okay. Okay.
And you can either sign up through Gmail or just with your email.
Okay. Do
So
I need a username?
Sorry, what's that?
Do I need a username?
No, I don't think it's really just for you, so I don't think a username is necessary. But it would be nice if you have your name on it, so maybe later on when you're submitting assignments, we could see that. Can I get a raise of hand of how many people have Replica set up already? On the virtual screen or okay, seems like not everybody have it ready, so I guess we could take a few-minute break and while the others finish setting it up, because we will be needing it later on.
Every single username says it's taken.
Excuse me, what are we doing right now?
Oh, so we're just waiting for some of the other students to finish registering for Replit, so we can just get started with coding.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I guess I will introduce Alex right now. This is Alex. He's the other TA for this class since it is a pretty significant number. I guess. Okay, I guess I'll share the setup document if anyone needs it.
Have any issue?
Okay, I get. So I was. So is anyone not finished? I guess. Oh, it seems like everybody's finished. Okay. Continuing where I left off. So now I guess we could start with a tradition in programming is so whenever you start a new language, you would always start by printing out the simple hello world, I guess, to both make sure your environment's working and seeing different variations in the languages. So I'll be transitioning to this. Oh, sorry, my screen's paused. Okay. So in Python, it's really simple. For hello world, it's literally done. So I guess another thing about this class, feel free to follow along when I'm coding, but it might distract you from the lesson I'm talking about right now. Or you could just wait until we have practice, and I will leave my code on the screen. So either way would work. Oh, also I guess I forgot to mention, ask if everybody have their Python document open or set up. And I guess if you run it, you would see the hello world printed out. Bowen?
I have a question. So I'm not like the request, but I'm like when I tried opening, I just don't know where to put to find where to I wanted to I wanted just try doing this hello world thing or write it, but I don't know where to write it.
Oh, okay. Sorry. That was my mistake. Share. So, I guess when you get logged in, you would be put to the this page, and if you see the
So you have to go to home.
you just go to the once you logged in, you will be directed to this homepage.
Oh yeah, here.
There's a new rebel button in the corner.
I just like click on create, and then click on Python.
Yeah, and then you could create
Create replet.
create a new replet, and then click Python. Give it a name that's suitable, hopefully appropriate, and then you could click on create rep. So you'll be clicking on create Python, name, and then create rep.
That's exactly what I did. I just made a new Python called hello world and just typed hello world. That's all.
Since it's a really simple code, so I don't expect too much trouble. But if you do have any issues, be sure to raise your hand or send it in the private chat or chat. Bowen, do you have another question, or are you just, or is it from the previous one?
I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, no worries. So I assume everybody has it working. All right. Let's move on.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so mine, I tried to run it and it said the process died unexpectedly, exit status 2.
I'll stop sharing my screen, and could you share yours? Sorry, let me see if I have it. Yeah. If you feel comfortable, you could share your screen, or you could, I guess, copy and paste what you wrote in the chat. All right, that's good. Ella, are you still having the trouble, or are you?
No, I had to change the file name.
Okay, I guess now everybody's done. We'll be moving on. Okay. So now we're gonna get into something a little, I guess, more complicated. So now we're going to go over what are variables. So variables are, I guess, you can imagine it as a box or a container, and it's a place to store data for the computers to access. And you could store almost anything in it, from an image to, I guess, a number to a list of numbers. So, but in this class, the main data types we will be focusing on is integers. So like numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, -5, -6, or strings like hello world, how are you, and float, which will be numbers with decimals like 3.14151, or it's going to be list. So it's list, which will be a number of a number of things stored in one variable, and some others that we'll be covering. So before we start with before we continue on, please don't memorize these things. They come, they would, with practice, they just comes to you. So don't try to, I guess, remember the names for all of them. And there, for variables, there is a naming convention. So you would start, the variable will be all lowercase with underscores between each a word. So it will be, so a few examples will be num or adult tickets, recommended books, and the variables should describe what sort of data it's going to be stored within. And each variable should only be storing one type of data, and you should not be using different, you should not be using the same name for different data types. Okay, sorry. Now moving back to the code, I'd like to do a brief introduction to the first data type we'll be studying, which would be string. And allow me to share this. Okay, I think you should be seeing the code, the VS code. So for strings, well, for all variables, defining a variable or sort of giving it an initial value is always the same, which would be, I guess in this case, an equal sign followed by before it would be the data, before it would be the variable name, and after it will be the data that's going to be stored within. So defining a string would simply look something like this, and this varies by language. So this is specifically for Python, and for Python it's really simple, but for, I guess, other languages, Java, C will be a little different. It's mainly the same, with a variable name before the equal sign, and the data type afterward. And then you could simply manipulate the string. And one function we learned from the hello world is the print command. And if you look at the bottom, if you look at the terminal, you would see that hello world is printed. So essentially the variable words is storing this hello world, this sentence, and we could use it anywhere else after it's defined. Any questions so far? Okay. So I mentioned that you can define it with you can define it with the data that's going to be stored afterward. But for strings, you could either define it through the double quotation mark, or you could define it through the single quotation mark. Both would work. And there is an actual reason why you might sometimes use single quotation mark rather than double quotation marks, which I will be mentioning right after this. So as you can see, you can still print this out. There's no issues. Well, there's a typo, but you can see that single quotation marks would also work for defining a string specifically. For numbers, okay. Well, I guess before explaining the difference between double quotation and single quotation would be how you might want to combine strings. So phrase A, and you might want to have another phrase B. So perhaps if you want to have more control over your program, maybe you could have two variables that's stored that are like, you can have multiple variables of the same data type, and you can put them together by the simple plus sign. And if you print this out, you would see that it's hello world combined together. Just add a space between. It looks nicer. So these are
Wait,
Do you do it in like GitHub or the Replit?
Feel free to do it in any editor you want, but Replit is just the simplest one to set up, so that's why I chose it.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I saw Richard. I didn't see your question, but answering right now. So it isn't print quotation mark hello world, is because within the quotation marks you're defining your it's signaling to the it's signaling to the computer that between these are a string instead of a specific variable. So if I print this out,
Do you use Python or there's another one called Python and then with Turtle?
use Python. We won't be
Okay.
covering the turtle module in this class. So Richard, so if you're gonna print it out like this, instead of printing world, you'll be printing word. Oh, I guess these are kind of similar. So changing it up a little. So if you print it out, you would see that it's the word word is printed out instead of the variable word with hello as its data printed out.
So the difference is if the word is in quotations, it printed the word with the word equals, but if you use word as string, we'll just say word.
Yeah, so in with quotation marks, you were saying that whatever is in between would be a string instead of a variable that you will be printing out. Great point.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So like I did like what you wrote and it says that there's an error.
What error does it say? Or if you can copy and paste the error into the chat.
I don't know how to like spell it, so maybe I'll put it in the chat.
All right. I guess while you do that, Ethan, do you have any questions?
I'm just wondering, how do you make a string?
Oh, yeah. So these are defining a string, I guess. Are you asking about how to define a variable with string as a data?
Or it's like how to make a variable.
Oh, sorry, Anthony, great point. That's exact.
Do you use string or do you use like shell or
sorry, let me answer Ethan's question right now. So I'll get you right after this. So you define it by simply saying that a variable name, maybe hello, and you put whatever data you want after the equal mark. So the equal sign is an indication to the computer saying that, oh, before this would be a variable, and afterward you would put whatever data type is in it. So Ethan, if that answers your question. Yes. Sorry. Cherry, yes, you did. So in mine, I have an underscore separating out the two letters, two words, I guess. So, so all variables have to be one word, but you can have underscores within. So for spaces, the computer just registered it as two different things instead of one variable name. and would generally give an error.
Okay.
Hugo, I think you had a question.
It's like when I type phrase A, it doesn't pop up.
Could you sorry, could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so should I? It's like this.
Oh, I have to stop sharing for this to see this.
Ah,
Could you sort of? I can't really. Okay. All right. What's wrong with it?
it's like the phrase A. I thought it's supposed to be like, like have a color.
Oh, that varies by editors. I have a sort of. I have a color scheme installed, so that's why it shows as a different color. But if you try print this thing, print phrase A out, you would have the same result.
So I need to print it.
Yeah. Me.
Then
So if you see, I have the print function. I print this phrase out, so you can see the result in the terminal.
okay, thanks.
All right. No problem. I guess Sophie, adding on to your answer to Cherry, it will be suggested to have everything lowercase. So it's sort of the naming convention for variables, and it adds readability to the code. So when others are reviewing your code, they sort of know what, like, oh, this is a variable, and oh, this is something else, like a function maybe. Yeah, Python is really strict on the format, so but it's really helpful, I guess, later on because it forces you to have a good coding habit, and I think that's really valuable when you're coding something a lot longer, maybe like 300 lines. And all right, is there any other questions? All right, doesn't seem like it. Continue on with the string. So maybe I briefly mentioned that there are differences between double quotation marks and single quotation marks, and I'll be showing it right here. So can someone, I guess, hello. So I guess, does anyone know why there, well, I would just say it, there is an error within this. Does anyone know why there is an error?
Is it because there's two quotation marks? Like two sets?
Right, so I guess I'll print this out anyways, there's gonna be an error. It's gonna be saying invalid syntax. So it's saying that like the format of this line is wrong. So the reason why it's wrong because you already are defining, so you told this computer that, oh, computer sees this first quotation mark, it would think, oh, afterward will be a string. And then you ended the string with another quotation mark. And then you have this incomprehensible text to the computer. So it doesn't know what to do with this syntax error, this error in your code. So it sends out and it would print out the error. Oh, okay, Kyle. So this is actually I will be covering right after this. So you're a little step ahead of me. Okay. So a way to solve this would be Well, since I said there are two ways of defining the defining the string, you would simply wrap it around with single quotation marks. So you tell the computers that, oh, I'm going to define the string with a single quotation mark, and then when you're using double quotation marks, the computer is gonna just think that it's a normal character with no special meanings. So now if I print this out, oh, you don't see any errors. And if I print the variable out, you would see hello world, hello, with quotation marks. All right. I get now moving on to what Kyle asked about. So how do you print this? Or like this. So both of them are used. So what do you do now? Well, Python, the developers of Python already thought about it. So they added a special character that's, I think across all languages, are called escape characters. And there is a backslash. So normally, if you print this out, you're gonna get an error, obviously, because the computer couldn't recognize this extra quotation mark. But if you add in a backspace, not a backspace, backslash, the computer is, you're telling the computer that after this slash, it's gonna be you should treat whatever the following character as a normal character. And when you print, well, when you run it, you would see no errors. And if you print this out, there it is, a double quotation mark. So this is especially useful when you're printing out maybe something like this. She said, it's my favorite dress. So right now you wouldn't, no matter what you use as the definition of string, you would always run into the issue, since the single quotation mark is also used in the question, the sentence. So now you could simply solve it by adding backslash to the double quotation marks, or single quotation marks if you're defining it with single quotation marks. And when you print it out, she said, it's my favorite dress. So far, does anyone have any questions? Right, just like Alex said, it's a so you're basically telling the computer that whatever follows it, well, in this case, whatever follows it will be treated not by the normal convention of the code or the code rule or the syntax. So in this case, after backslash, there's a double quotation mark. So the computer is going to register it as a normal character instead of a character with special meanings, like defining the string. Is there any other questions?
When you want to print something, what if you want to like have it like two lines? All
right. So there are two ways of doing this. One way would be simply, she says something else, and then you just print another line of it. So
yeah, but what if you want to do it with like one?
All right, so that would be the other way. So if you want to print that out, say that's what you want, you would, yeah, just like Alex said, you could put something else afterward, which is characters with other special meanings. So in this case, n stands for a new line.
Oh, okay.
So if you print this out, you would see that although I'm printing out with in the same print, you can actually print two lines, which is generally not suggested. So it will be better if you just print out this instead of using \n. But sometimes you can't avoid it. So that's when you would use the \n. Can you also do print stuff you say? Yeah. Here. Sorry. So, Ethan, I guess, are you asking? Can you do something like something like this?
And basically, you can press enter inside, and you can like write a new line.
Like this?
Sort of.
No, because for Python, it's again there are very.
It works on mine for some reason.
Huh.
It's 3 single quotes.
3 single quotes. Okay. Like this?
Yep.
Like this?
Yeah.
Okay. For this, you could do this, but again, it's not really following the standard Python convention, and which it's something you should avoid at all cost. So it will be much more. It will be much better if you just put in 2 variables or print them out in 2 separate lines. All right. Is there any other questions or? All right, seeing no other questions, I guess we'll move on to the first practice problems throughout this 8 course. And here is the question. Sorry, oh, that's not what I was saying. Here is the prompt. So print out this. I don't care how you do it, but well, again, please don't use \n or the 3 single quotation marks. What's the difference between single double and triple quotation marks? There isn't a significant difference, but it's sort of convenient when you are like sometimes it comes down to personal preference. Sometimes it comes to whenever you're maybe trying to avoid \, which again, as Alex the TA said, you should probably make them consistent. And I hope that answers the question. But here is, I guess, sort of something you should try to print out, and it's a Space Needle, which is sort of the landmark in Seattle. And I don't care which method you use, but try to print this thing out. And again, please don't use /n or something like this. I guess I'll come back in maybe 10 minutes, if that's enough. I'll check. I guess when you're finished, sort of take a break, and I'll be checking in very shortly. I mean, I guess to shorten the time and just practice the core things, I'll be dropping in the tech.txt file.
Ethan,
Yes?
it's like how do you do like the straight lines?
How would I show this? So if you look under the backspace, there is a there's the backslash and there's a straight line. So if you press shift and then press the backslash button, it would print out that. I don't know if that helps. But yeah, shift backslash.
With this black shirt. I click shift and then is it backspace?
Under backspace, do you see between enter and
Oh.
backspace? Do you see that key?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you press shift and then with the backslash, then you would print out the straight line.
But that straight line, if I click enter, it doesn't work. It still like have a gap.
Can you give us a hint on how you did it without like doing like I don't know 50 print functions?
I did 50 print lines.
Huh?
I did 38 lines of print.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I'm on line 15. So
Okay.
Wait, how long did it take you?
I did this a long time ago. I don't actually know.
When I click the link, the Space Needle text link, like when I click into it, there's nothing. It's just a blank plain text, 0 bytes.
Does anyone else have the issue? Or...
no, I have the thing, and I am looking at it.
That's odd.
Oh, I'm so close. I'm so close.
Let me see if I can do something about that.
Mine has a lot of gaps.
Right. Almost there.
Mine's working fine. I don't know why, but mine's just working fine.
Yeah, this looks pretty good actually. There's 16 of these.
How do you do like the little gaps?
Sorry, I was muted. That's awkward. So Anthony, I get answering your question first. So what I want what I want you to print out is this Space Needle character art. So you so when you print it out, you'll be on the right side.
I can't not like print it.
Oh, so what do you here I guess I'll write in the first line of it, which should give you
Using an iPad to do Zoom. Yeah.
Okay.
This
I'm so close.
This will be something you would do for the first line of the code.
Oh, okay.
Anthony, if that helps your question, if that answers it.
Oh, I'm so close to finishing.
Also, if there is like a little more complex questions, feel free to private message me, Ted, or Alex, and we could get you into a breakout room to have maybe like a one.
So when you're done, what like do we like send it to you?
Sure. You can either send a screenshot if that's possible in Zoom. I don't think so. Or you could just. Well, I guess I trust you guys when you say you finished it. So
yeah. I'm gonna. Or should I just send you the code that I did?
I prefer not, because the code in Zoom is very messy, and I don't think I'll be able to read it anyways.
I'm gonna send you my Replit link.
All right, that'll work.
When you click on it, does it?
Yeah. When you're done, I guess take a break and maybe rest your eyes, take a sip of water,
Does
and
it
we'll come
work?
back. Sorry, Jeffrey. Yes. So I guess if you're finished, just send the link to me or Alex or Ted, and we can just take a look at it.
I'll just
The link. The link for me still doesn't work. Can you send the link again, please?
Sorry, what the document link?
The document doesn't work for me.
Oh,
It's not all.
oh, yeah. I'll send this, I guess. Copy this into your code, and then it would look normal. It's just that the formatting in Google Doc is a little off.
Okay.
Yes, Anthony. If you want to, you can send it to me, and I can take a look at it.
Can you take a look at mine?
Yeah, sure. Just send private chat the link to me, Alex or Ted.
Wait, is it Ethan Instructor? Oh yeah.
So, is anyone not finished with the Space Needle, or needs a little extra time, or have any questions? Sophia?
I did not finish.
Oh, okay. Peter, you too? Okay.
Yeah.
We will, let's take for everyone else, I guess, we'll come back at around, is 5:15 sounds good to you guys? Or maybe a little more time, or less?
My space bar is probably broken from pressing space.
Okay, I guess we'll come back at 5:15 and then we'll move on.
I still didn't get how to do it.
Is it fine if you and Alex get into a breakout room and maybe like went over how like you would start the project and start this assignment? Sorry, let me check on Alex and Hugo, and I'll come back, and we'll start after we come back, after I come back.
The Space Needle was fun because I really liked copying and pasting.
The way I did this was, print like every individual line.
All right, it's about time. Let's get moving. So the next thing I want to cover is numbers. In Python, there are mainly two types of numbers: integer or float. And float, I guess. For integers, it's numbers that you would like from range from negative, I guess, a very big number, like from, I guess, integers would include a negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So it will be numbers without a decimal, I guess. That's how I would put it. And there are like operations, just like math. You could do something like 1 plus 3 minus 2 times 5. So in Python, the multiplication will be done with the star. And if you print this out, I guess it would follow the same conventions as math. I'll be going over all the questions after I talk about float, I guess, because they are really similar. So for float, it's really the same thing, but you would define a float as something like this. So you would, even though it might be a 6.
Are you screen sharing?
I can't see your screen.
I was not, sorry. Oops. Okay. Okay. Anyways, for integers, you would define it just as equals a number, and if it's negative, you would use the minus sign to symbolize the negative sign. And you could do operations with them, and either with numbers or between variables of integer and integers themselves, or a float, which I will be going over next. So for float, even though maybe it's just a number 6, you would still define it as 6.0 to tell the computer that, oh, this is a float, so there will be decimal points after this. And you would, the same operations apply to the float as integers, parentheses, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, they would also work the same. But for I'll talk about calculation a little more about calculations later, but well, I'll talk about it right now, I guess. For integers, you would find a really interesting property that is when you're dividing a, let's say, by 2. So if you print this a out, it will be 1.5, right? So 1.5 is not an integer anymore, it's a float. So in Python, the variables, Python is smart enough to know that when it's an integer and when it's a float, so you can sort of transition between them. But however, you can go from an integer to a float, but not a float to an integer just by like letting Python do the work. But you can still do it late, but you can still manually change it later, and I'll be mentioning later. Some maybe uncommon operations might be the 2 division sign. So what this would do is it would take however many. So when you divide it, the result instead of 1.5 would be 1, because there is only like one whole, like 1 2s. There's only 1 2 in a 3, if that makes sense. So instead of dividing the 1 by the 2, it would just set that as a remainder. And another maybe a little less common operation will be the modulo, which is basically saying that you're taking the remainder after you divide by this number. So this would well, this is coincidence, but this would also result in 1. Let's change this to 5. So this would result in a remainder of 1. So, and you would see that the answer and the things printed out will be 2 and 1. I don't know if I explained that good enough, but if there's any questions, feel free to ask right now. All right, not seeing any questions, we will, I'll talk, next thing I'll be talking about is sort of how you could switch between data types. And an example of this will be, maybe you want to do additions between A and B, but when you print this out, you would get an error saying that there are two different data. It cannot be added because it's a string and the other one is an integer. So what you would do, so if you do want to add it, you have to you can you have to find a way to change the string into an integer. And what you would do is say int and parentheses, and in the parentheses will be the variable that you want to convert into integer. And now this would result in a functional program saying printing out the result 5. And this would also work for if you have maybe 4.0 divided by 2, and maybe for C, for this, the variable, the data in C will be stored as 2.0 as a float instead of as maybe you want it as 2. So what you would do to C would be converting it to an integer. And then when you print this out, you would see that it's a 2 instead of 2.0. Does anyone have any questions? Sophia, do you have a question?
I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay. Okay. But doing this, you might result in some errors in the, I guess, calculation. So when there is a number after the decimal, it would. Xingling, do you have a question? I think you're muted. I think you're muted. Sorry.
You're muted.
Oops, I forgot that.
That's fine. So, what's the question?
Can you only get floats on the in other countries? I'm curious to try it in China.
Sorry, I didn't quite understand what you said. Could you repeat it?
Down with the class. Yeah. Could you get float in China?
Float in China, did you say? Or...
Yes.
Sorry, float is sort of it's a data type in Python, so I'm not really comprehending the question right here. Sorry. Is it fine if you speak in Chinese? Because I think that'll be a little easier.
You could do that. No wonder. 这个软件中国有吗？
我不认。So is this for can you use this Replica in China? I think yes. I mean, I don't think it doesn't, but how about
it does.
Okay, it does. So yes, it does work in China, and
because I'm using like my Surface and it's China and it works.
All right. So yeah, it does work in China. So feel free to stay after class, and we will help you go through the setup or something like this, and just I guess take a few notes while I'm talking about whatever's left, which is not a lot. If that answers the question.
I'll say this.
All right. Sorry. What's that, Hugo?
I'm just saying I think it does answer.
Okay. Great. Okay.
You see,
Sorry. What's that?
why is your mouse like so cool?
Oh, it's a plugin that I installed. I'll talk more about it like if you want to after class. Let's just get back on track. We are a little short on time. So, so if you are converting a float with a decimal place, with decimal places after the decimal, you would not get the same. You would not get an error, first of all, but you would not be getting the same answer, like same number. So as you can see that the integer automatically discarded the whatever is after the decimal and only kept the integer part. And obviously, you could convert, although this is not used often, you could also convert from an integer to a float manually, and this would result in a 0.0 after the integer.
Right, so to get 4.3, can you just like can you like make it so it's like 430 divided by 100 or something? Like 430 divided by 100.
Like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's a valid way of getting, if just purely getting the number 4.3.
Oh no, you put 430 divided by 100 in like C, and then you print.
Like this?
Yeah.
Yes, you could. But unless there are specific uses for this, it's not recommended you do this. It's much simpler if you just say 4.3. They give out the same result and it's much easier to read. So, well, unless maybe like like 430 and 100 are like special values that form an equation or something, and you don't want to do it by hand. That's definitely a way of putting equations for, that's a valid reason to do that. But
Also,
if you're simply,
if A was like without the quotation marks 3, and then C equals A divided by B, and then you did print C, would it be 1.5?
Yeah, definitely. This is just replacing the numbers you have, you hard coded to variables that you like said before. So if you do want to have like set C to 3 divided by 2, and they are related to A and B, it's strongly it's not strongly recommended. It's a must that you say A divided by B instead of 3 divided by 2. So this increases the flexibility of your code, so you don't have to change. So like you don't have to change everything when you want to make one small edit to a number. If that.
Ethan.
Yes.
It's like, even though I did like print C, it still haven't been like, changed.
Do you have these values set up, or?
Yeah, I do.
Is C a variable, or is C a string? I guess.
I just typed this. Maybe I should turn it.
Could you move up a little? It's saying that line A has an error. Line 1 has an error. Can you move a little closer? I can't see it very well.
Wait.
Yeah. I'm not seeing an issue. Maybe save your file and then try again. That's the best recommendation I could give. And there is a little, it's getting, I think you just type something random after the.
No, it's like, it's supposed. even though I did like this, it still haven't been like, printed.
So I'm not seeing the error right now. I guess check capitalize or lowercase if that helps. And what does the error message say? When also I just said no for everyone. Whenever you're asking a question, always be sure to describe the error message because that really helps me to know what's going on with the code.
Okay.
Okay. I guess. Sorry, where was I? Okay. So sometimes you might want to convert maybe an integer or float to a string. So you would do that by just simply saying str and then parentheses. And that would result in printing out as a string. Although you can't see it, but now when we add maybe now when we add d to it, it wouldn't give an error because they're both strings, and you see that it's just adding and sticking a number after c. And that's if there's no issues, we'll move on to some practice problems where you would be doing a few calculations. And if you do have any questions, just feel free to ask me right now. I guess the practice will be find the answers for these 5 questions.
Can you do it in your head?
I recommend not, because this is a programming class instead of a math class. I mean, and it
For
will be
my
up.
Space Needle.
Wait, I think what did you say?
This is a little too complex, I feel like. It's not...
So I don't I mean, I guess do the best you could, and then I will be going over the result, like I guess how you would write some other questions.
For my Space Needle code, like every time I run it, it keeps adding a layer.
I recommend you pause on the Space Needle for now, and if you want to, you can stay a little after, and we can take a look at it. I guess you finish this program first, finish this practice first, so you don't like have a clog, like you don't clog up the assignments. Feel free to send me the code or just the answers, private chat to me, Alex or Ted, and we'll be sure to look at it.
Excuse me, when I typed it in,
Yes.
yeah, it said, like, I wrote print, and then, like, 2.713 star 3.1 minus 4 divided by 5.3 plus 1, and it said trace back most recent call last. File main.py, line 53 and model. Print 2.713 star 3.1 3.1 minus 4 slash 5.3 plus 1. Type error. Unsupported operand type A 4 slash none type and float.
Do you have parentheses around the print?
Hmm?
Do you have the parentheses around the print?
Yeah.
Do you do you have matching parentheses? Because there are issues. There will be issues if you have maybe like 1.5 pairs of parentheses, which would give the Python program a little error. Could you sign? Could you maybe just send private chat to me your first line of code? And Anthony, the percentage symbol means mod, yeah, mod or find the remainder of this operation, I guess.
Actually, I tried it again, and now it works.
All right, I'm glad that worked out.
他在上，我们在做题。
Excuse me?
Yes.
For the, like, for number 4, I got 1. So, but I'm not sure if it's 1 because there's a slash and what does it mean?
Sorry. Slash just means that take whatever the result as a whole number. So like maybe like when you are 5//2, that will result in 2 because you can only because that the answer is 2.5. So it's only 2. I don't know if that helps. So I'll sorry. I guess I just mentioned this to everybody. Just sending me the answers for these 5 will be sufficient, and there's no need to send me the code.
Wait, do you just type it down?
Yeah.
But then what do you do it with, like, the times?
You do the star key above 8.
Oh, you do like shift 8?
Yes.
Oh, okay, then I think I'm done.
Okay.
But I have no answer.
Be sure to print it out, like have parentheses around the print. Sorry.
Yeah. But I did it, but still it's like.
Does it give any errors or?
Wait, after you finish, do you click like run?
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Okay. Since we're a little short on time, can you like perhaps maybe stay a little? I'll just take a look at it. You didn't print it out as far as I see it, so.
What? You need to print it?
Yeah. Okay. Since we're a little short on time, so I guess we'll be moving on, and you could either email me the answers or just
Wait.
put it in
Like,
chat.
I don't get it. Like, you said for number 1, you said I have to put a parentheses, but I don't know why should I put it.
Oh, so when you're printing it, you need a parentheses, but like around the values you print. So like see here, I have parentheses around whatever the value I'm going to print. All right. I guess we should probably move on since we have 10 more minutes, and I'll be covering the one last thing, which is comments, and I think they are very important since. Okay.
In the box, you need to do like print hello world.
No, this is just a example from previously, the Hello World program. So one last thing, that is comments. So comments are really important for you to maintain, like for code maintenance for bigger projects, which you should start developing the habit right now. For me personally, I had a horrible habit of not commenting any of my code, which when I came back maybe a year or 2 years later, and it took me a lot longer to understand the code. So in Python, writing comments are simple. So you would have a number key, the number sign, and then followed by whatever comment you want. This is a comment. And maybe so for comments, you would usually describe what this program does, or like you would usually describe like what the following line does or the following program does. So let's see. Yeah, this is basically the last thing, and I guess just demonstrating what comments sort of look like in real world. This is how I would comment like the projects we're going to be working on. So you would tell like remind yourself or whoever's going to look at your code that what the following line does or something like that.
How long do we need to like do it in the like in the two games?
Sorry, I'm not. So are you saying how long the code are or how long does it take?
How long time? Yeah, does it take to finish it?
I'm planning on maybe like half the lessons or maybe a little more, depending on like how fast we move, because these are very complicated, like rather complicated programs and do takes a long time to debug.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, adding on to Alex, it does look a lot better. I hated it. Like I hated myself for not developing the habit like when I was started writing code, because it's so much better to just have it in. Yes. Yeah, for this one, I didn't put any comments in because these are sort of a earlier projects I created. So you can see like maybe looking right now, maybe because I wrote a lot of code, I understand like what this part does. But maybe when you come back in maybe just 1 year or 2 years, and you aren't really familiar with like this thing, like with this code you wrote, like sorry, I got caught. So like for this, I would take much longer to understand what this part does rather than looking at something like this, which have a lot of comments in it. And that about wraps up this lesson. And if you have any questions, feel free to stay. If not, have a great week, and I will see you next week.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next time.
Bye.
I'll stay, Ethan, because I do
Thank
not
you,
feel
bye.
satisfied at all.
Anthony, you feel free to ask any questions right now. Sorry for cutting you off because I did have to like move on the class. All right. I guess, does anyone have a question they want to ask right now, or?
Can you show us the answer for number 1?
Oh yeah, right. Sorry. I forgot to do that, and here it is. Here it is. Here. I did change up question number 4 a little, but the answer is still correct. Just don't look at this part, I guess. Does anyone have another question? Or perhaps like just random questions that will also work?
I mean, like the coding answer for the
Richard,
I
could
got
you?
some different answers. Are you sure these are the answers?
I'm pretty sure these are the right answers. I mean, I could double check it if you want to.
Please double check.
Which question to be exact?
I think the first four.
They're all. So you okay? The first four are not correct. I mean, I'll just do it right now, I guess.
And then I want to talk about the Space Needle, okay? Because
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
not satisfied at all.
Sure. Sorry for cutting that off.
Okay. It's not helping, I feel like, at all.
That does seem correct. Yeah, number one seems correct. I think number two is also correct. Anthony, you're also more than welcome to just check against my code to see if there's anything different. Yeah, Anthony, can you probably maybe show your code because I'm not finding any issues with the answers.
I'm trying to retype it and then I'll see.
Okay. I guess Ethan, do you have any questions? Andy, do you have any questions? Richard, do you still have any questions or? Okay. Anthony, how are things looking so far?
Looking good. Can we talk after this?
Sure.
Not sure, but it might help readability if it like spaces in between the operators and stuff.
Yeah.
Makes it easier to spot errors and things.
Can I show my screen? It looks good.
Sorry, what did you say?
Can I show my screen? It looks good.
Sure.
See it?
Yeah, I see it.
For the last one,
that looks really good.
For the last one, I did something different, A, B, and C, so that also worked. So this all looks good, and I understand all this. Now let's go to the Space Needle. Okay.
Okay. I'm looking.
Hold on, wait. I need to make sure. Yeah, good. Now it's Space Needle. This is my Space Needle.
Yeah, that looks fantastic, I think.
But here's the problem. I click one again. See what happened?
Oh yeah, that's very that's what you would get for like that's what like the console does. It doesn't clear whatever's before it, which kind of sucks. You could do that by in the console, press Control L, and I think that will clear the screen.
Oh, Control L
in the console, yeah.
Wait, doesn't the console usually like push all the previous lines like up?
I think it should, but I mean this also works. So now you would see a clear screen.
Yeah, it works because that's what Python does. I cannot change that.
Yeah.
See, I just want to bring that up.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. I
honestly don't see why it would overwrite the previous stuff though.
It wouldn't overwrite. It's just looks like messy when you don't clear it for a long time.
There's also escape character to clear, I believe, or I mean, there was in Ruby. I know.
Yeah. I mean,
I hit the X and it clears it out.
Okay. Yeah, that would work.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
I do not need to send it to you since you saw it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so I won't send bye.
Okay. All right. Bye. I mean, you could just use slash. I know. You could use /B for backspace and do it like 100 times to delete everything.
Oh, like I mean, there's like a character that literally clears the console. Let me try and find it.
Not in Python, I think. Well, I don't know. I've been coding for so long that I still don't know that. Just print /n 100 times. That's what someone suggested. So I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't.